Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to today's event on what you need to know about protecting our young population from COVID 19. My name is Sarah, and I'm a volunteer from AEBC, and I am honored to be a representative to jumpstart today's event. I would like to start off with the land acknowledgement, and we would like to acknowledge that SickKids and AEBC are located in Takaranto, the colonized name of Toronto, which is the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and as well the Wendat people. We recognize that Indigenous people are the original caretakers of the land we occupy and that their crucial role as land protectors must be preserved. As settlers, we acknowledge the historical impact of colonization and know that this disposition continues to this day. We must work in solidarity with Indigenous people to advance, change, and create equitable, just, and inclusive spaces for all, especially for those who are confronted by multiple intersecting forms of oppression, like what many disabled Indigenous people, Black people, and other people of color experience on a regular basis. We ask that you join us in having gratitude for the opportunity to live, play, and work on this land. Thank you. I would like to continue on now with the introductions. From AEBC, we have Minette Samaroo, which is the AEBC Toronto chapter president. We have Jonathan Pistana, which is a volunteer from AEBC who will be monitoring today's chat for the Q&A section. And we have myself, Sarah Syed, from AEBC, as well as a volunteer who will be presenting today's introduction. Our SickKids COVID-19 vaccine consult team presenter is Allison Boyce, a registered nurse. Accessibility Collaborative Coordinator, Kim Alder. CILT, Center for Independent Living in Toronto, Tech Support, is presented by Rayhan and Rebecca. And our
Sarah,
ASL.
just pause there for a
Yes,
second.
of
Thank
course.
you. Okay, go ahead.
And our ASL English interpreter team is Francine and Anna. Lastly, our CART captionist is Kim from CHS, who unfortunately is not here. Next slide, please. For our agenda today, we have the welcome, the land acknowledgement, and the introduction. After, we will be having a presentation by Allison Boyce, who is a registered nurse from the COVID-19 Vaccine Consult Service at SickKids. Then we will have a question and answer period, and lastly, the wrap up. We welcome everyone, and we are so happy that you are joining us for this opportunity to learn and ask questions about the COVID-19 vaccines for children 6 months to 17 years, as well as for pregnant of nursing people. My name is Sarah, and I'm an 18-year-old student, as well as a volunteer at AEBC. I go by pronouns she and her, and I would like to start off with an introduction to some technical notes for today's session. Some technical notes is that we ask that you mute your microphones and turn off your camera while we are sharing slides. This will make it easier to have just the ASL interpreters and speakers on screen. We have captions available today, so you can click the CC button at the bottom of your screen to turn those on or off. Throughout this session, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, or you can use the Q&A and we will read them out during our question and answer period. We will be recording the session today for the purpose of sharing within our community. Your names will not be disclosed and questions will be kept anonymous. Now I'd like to transition to share briefly about who we are at AEBC. The Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians, or AEBC for short, is a national grassroots peer support advocacy group. For the last 30 years, we've advocated nationally and locally on behalf of the blind, partly sighted, and deafblind community and insist on equal access to programs and services. We meet monthly to plan and help each other advocate on local and provincial issues. We give input at public and community consultations to ensure that all programs and services are accessible for all Canadians. We advise on equity and inclusion when new programs, policies, and systems are developed, and we partner with other advocacy groups to engage the wider disability community. As volunteers, we donate our time, money, and efforts to amplify our voice and develop our advocacy skills. Toronto chapter members successfully advocated for the Ontario government photo ID for non-drivers and for accessible federal government websites. Next slide, please. Funded by the City of Toronto, CILT and a cross-disability team of partner organizations referred to as the Accessibility Collaborative work together to outreach to deaf and disabled Torontonians to provide fact-based information about COVID-19 vaccines and to address barriers. Project partners are grassroots disability organizations who have enrolled and deployed community-specific ambassadors, provided disability community-specific outreach and webinars, engaged in supporting this town hall. Our accessibility collaborative partners include the Alliance for the Equality of Blind Canadians, the AEBC Toronto chapter, Autistics for Autistics, A4A, the Centre for Independent Living in Toronto, CILT, Ethno-Racial People with Disabilities Coalition of Ontario, also known as ERDCO, North Yorkers for Disabled Persons, Silent Voice Canada Inc., and Surrey Place. Next slide, please. Today's session has come about because of a need to make sure important information for parents and carers about vaccines for children is accessible. I would like to introduce Allison Boyce, a registered nurse from the COVID-19 Vaccine Consult Service at SickKids. We are so happy to have Allison with us to present some information and answer our questions. I will hand it over to you, Allison.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you to Minette and to the AEBC group for inviting us here today, or me, I guess. My name is Allison Boyce, and my pronouns are she and her. I am a 43-year-old woman. I am white and I do have freckles. I have fairly long brown curly hair, and I have a blue turtleneck sweater on today, and I am wearing purple rimmed glasses, and I also have a headset and microphone on. I am a registered nurse in the COVID vaccine consult service, as Sarah has told you. Next slide, please. Our clinic offers 20-minute appointments Monday to Friday, where parents can ask questions about the COVID vaccines for their children and about getting COVID vaccines while being pregnant, breastfeeding, or trying to become pregnant, and to get answers from a registered nurse that has a specialty. These appointments are done over the phone, so that it is not necessary to come into SickKids because parking and getting around our building can be a bit troublesome. These appointments offer lots of time and lots of good conversation that can happen in them. And so if you would like to book an appointment, please visit our website if you have access to the internet. The webpage is sickkids.ca/vaccine consults. If you don't have the internet and would rather call us, you can call at 437-881-3505 or toll free at 1-888-304-6558. Apologize. Or you can email us at vaccine.consults@sickkids.ca. And we do have language line available for interpretation if necessary. Next slide, please. I am here today to have an open and judgment-free discussion about infants, children, and teens getting the COVID vaccine, and to have conversation about pregnant and breastfeeding individuals and the COVID vaccine. And I will also at the end answer any remaining questions about the COVID vaccine. Next slide, please. So, why should children be vaccinated against COVID-19? Many people think that COVID is over, but it is not, unfortunately. It is not time to let our guards down, and vaccination is so important right now. I am sure many of you have seen the news or heard the news about children's hospitals across Canada, but especially in Ontario, experiencing overcrowding due to influenza, RSV, and COVID-19. Being fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and remaining up to date on boosters, which means having had a booster within the last 6 months, greatly decreases the risk of getting COVID-19, although less so with newer variants. But it still does give us some protection against that. Being fully vaccinated and up to date on boosters also greatly decreases the risk of hospitalization and severe disease. We do not always know why children get extremely ill and require hospitalization. Their risk factors are not always as straightforward as with adults. We do know that children with pre-existing health issues, such as asthma, cardiac disease, neurological disorders, and obesity, are at a higher risk for hospitalization and severe disease. We also know that some children with no pre-existing health issues are hospitalized for COVID-19. Children that have multiple viruses at one time, for example, influenza or the flu, and COVID-19, or COVID-19 and RSV, have an increased risk of hospitalization with or without pre-existing health issues. Full vaccination also decreases the risk. Excuse me, I just need to cough. I apologize for that. I couldn't find my mute button in enough time. Sorry. So full vaccination also does decrease the risk of developing MIS-C, which stands for multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. This can develop weeks after a mild COVID infection. It is rare, but very serious, and almost always requires hospitalization and in some ICU support. Full vaccination also decreases the risk of long COVID, and that's symptoms that last far beyond infection, which can occur in children, and it does occur in adults as well. COVID vaccines also reduce the risk of transmitting COVID to our families, our friends, and our communities. Being vaccinated will also help us keep schools open and extracurricular activities going safely. Next slide, please. mRNA vaccines. mRNA has gotten a lot of media attention in the last 2 to 3 years. So I think that it is important to set the record straight about mRNA. mRNA technology is not new. It was developed in the 70s and found to be very delicate. And so it had to be refined to allow for the full benefit. During the SARS epidemic in 2002 to 2003, mRNA technology was being used to develop a vaccine for that specific coronavirus, which is quite similar to the coronavirus of COVID-19. That virus, however, did not become a pandemic virus. So the work continued in the background, but at a much, much slower speed. In March 2020, when the pandemic was declared, the work with mRNA technology for this coronavirus began at full speed. All of the world's resources, including scientists, laboratories, money, and workers, were put into the making of these vaccines. mRNA vaccines cannot change your DNA. As humans, we lack the ability to open the cell that would allow the vaccine into our DNA. mRNA does not stay in our bodies. It rapidly degrades, usually a few hours after receiving a vaccine, and is gone within the day. These mRNA vaccines do not contain microchips, metals, magnets, preservatives, antibiotics, animal or fetal cells, latex, food products, gelatin, or pork products. You cannot get COVID-19 from these mRNA vaccines. They are not a live virus. There is no scientific evidence to link mRNA vaccines to infertility. This is something that has been marketed by the anti-vax community to instill fear, especially into parents who are considering vaccinating their children. Next slide, please. So let's talk about what these mRNA vaccines are and what they do. mRNA is a messenger, hence the M in the word mRNA. And they carry information to our cells. The information that they carry is how to make the spike protein of the COVID-19 virus. Currently, with bivalent boosters, the information it carries is for the original COVID-19 virus and for the Omicron BA.4/5 variant. Once this information is given, the mRNA rapidly degrades. Once produced, the immune system mounts an immune response and antibodies are created. When this spike protein is seen in the future, your immune system will recognize it and help destroy it. mRNA vaccines do contain the mRNA, lipids, which are just fats that protect the mRNA, sugar, and stabilizers. Next slide, please. Let's move on to approved COVID-19 vaccines for children 6 months of age to under 5. These are both mRNA vaccines. The first is Moderna, 25 micrograms. And this is a 2-dose primary series. And the doses are given 8 weeks apart. This is 1/4 of the adult dose of Moderna. The second vaccine is Pfizer, 3 micrograms. And this is a 3-dose primary series, each dose given 8 weeks apart. Pfizer chose to do micro doses, 1/10 of the adult dose. And they were hoping that it could be a 2-dose primary series. But they did have to go back and add a 3rd dose to mount a good immune response. It is not recommended to mix and match for the under 5 age group. So if a child begins with Pfizer, they complete the series with Pfizer, and the same for Moderna. Both of these vaccines are safe and effective. And for healthy children, there is no preferred vaccine. A child that is moderately to severely immunocompromised is recommended to get Moderna with an additional dose. There is no longer an interval between the COVID vaccine and other vaccines, such as the flu shot. That was just changed last week. And Ontario is supposed to be updating their website shortly, like within the next hour. So that's good. Boosters for this age group are not yet approved, but will likely come in the new year. Next slide, please. So a little bit of problem solving for parents that have children that are almost 5 years old. If a 4-year-old starts their 3-dose primary series with Pfizer, 3 micrograms, but turns 5 before completing the 3-dose series, once they are 5, they will complete the 3-dose series with Pfizer 10 micrograms. If you have a 4-year-old that starts their two-dose primary series with Moderna, 25 micrograms, and then they turn 5 prior to completion, they will actually continue with Moderna 25 micrograms to complete their primary series. Moderna has different age groups than Pfizer, and their age group goes up until 6. So it is tested on children up until the age of 6. Next slide, please. So the approved vaccines for the 5 to 11s, there are 2. One is Pfizer, 10 micrograms, and this is a 2-dose primary series given at 8 weeks apart. And the dose is 1/3 of the adult dose. And the Pfizer 10 micrograms is the preferred vaccine for this age group. They also have approved Moderna 50 micrograms, which is also 2 doses given 8 weeks apart. This is half of the adult dose and is available with informed consent. This booster that, actually, let me start again. We have an update about the 5 to 11s booster. At the end of the week last week, Canada did approve a bivalent booster for the 5 to 11s that have not yet had a booster. This will be the preferred booster once Ontario releases information about distribution, which again should be coming out today. This age group can get the booster at 6 months after the completion of their primary series. If a bivalent booster cannot be given for any reason, an original Pfizer booster is recommended. If your child has already had a booster as a 5 to 11-year-old, they are not eligible at this time for the bivalent, unless they are at high risk for severe COVID. And again, we are awaiting Ontario's rollout of this. Next slide, please. Lastly, let's look at the approved vaccines for the 12 to 17-year-olds. The first is Pfizer, 30 micrograms. This is 2 doses and can be given 8 weeks apart. And this is the preferred vaccine for this age group. The second approved vaccine for this age group is Moderna, 100 micrograms, a 2-dose primary series given 8 weeks apart. It is available upon request with informed consent. This is an age group that has a slightly higher risk of developing myocarditis, mostly the 16 and 17-year-olds, although even in this age group, it is still rare. There was a slightly higher increase in frequency seen with Moderna in the 18 to 24-year-olds. And this is why they chose to make Pfizer the preferred vaccine for the 12 to 17-year-olds. And I will talk more specifically about myocarditis in a few slides. For this group, there are 3 boosters that are approved. The preferred booster for this age group is the Pfizer 30 microgram bivalent BA.4/5 booster. If the teen cannot receive this vaccine for any reason, the original Pfizer 30 milligrams is available and is the preferred original booster. Lastly, Moderna 50 micrograms is available as a booster and is available upon request. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the approved boosters, bivalent boosters, sorry. As I mentioned earlier, bivalent boosters target the original COVID virus and the Omicron variant. There are currently 3 different bivalent boosters approved in Canada, and you are eligible if you have not had a booster in a minimum of 3 months. The first bivalent booster is the Pfizer bivalent BA.4/5 booster. This booster is now approved for those 5 years and up, as I said previously. I realize the slide says 12 and up, but that is because the approval of the 5 to 11s came after I sent the approved slides. But this is tailored towards the dominant variant in Ontario, Canada, and most of the US. And as I stated, it is the preferred booster for the 5 to 11s and 12 to 17s, and is also available for those 18 and up. Next slide, please. The second approved bivalent booster is Moderna bivalent BA.1 booster. It is tailored to the original strain of COVID and the Omicron variant BA.1. This is approved for 18 years of age and up only. The third bivalent booster is Moderna's bivalent BA.4/5 booster. And it is also approved for 18 and up only, and can be given at 6 months following the last booster or COVID vaccine, and given at a minimum of 3 months is recommended. All of these bivalent boosters show comparable immune responses, and getting a bivalent booster is very important if you are eligible. Next slide, please. Let's review the side effects of COVID-19 vaccines for children 6 months and up, all the way to 17 years of age. I think it's important to note that some children experience no side effects at all, and some do experience mild to moderate side effects that include sore arm, irritability, which tends to be more younger kids, especially those that can't yet verbalize what might be happening. Fatigue is common, low-grade fever and chills, muscle and joint pain can occur as well, and Tylenol or Advil can be given as directed for fever, pain, irritability following vaccination. It's not recommended to be given before, but afterward for symptoms is fine. Next slide, please. Myocarditis. So myocarditis is an inflammation of the heart muscle. There have been rare cases of myocarditis related to the mRNA vaccine for COVID-19. Just for interest's sake, myocarditis has been seen with some other COVID vaccines like Novavax. However, for the sake of our presentation, I will only be discussing myocarditis related to mRNA vaccines. These rare cases are typically seen in males in their late teens and early 20s. Cases related to vaccination tend to be mild and treated with rest at home, and sometimes an anti-inflammatory like Advil is added. Signs of myocarditis tend to occur within the first week following vaccination, most commonly at about 48 hours following vaccination. I think it's important to note that if your child has a cardiac condition, this does not increase the likelihood of them developing myocarditis from vaccination. I think it's also very important to note that myocarditis rates for children and teens following a COVID infection are much higher than myocarditis following a COVID vaccine. There is a table to the right of this slide with the occurrence rates of myocarditis following the second dose, as that is when it is more commonly seen. So for children 5 to 11 years old, myocarditis has occurred in approximately 0.001% of doses given. And the same is true for the 12 to 17-year-olds. Slightly less for the 12 to 15-year-olds and a slight touch more for the 16 to 17-year-olds. I have added in a comparison the 18 to 24-year-old occurrence rate, which is 0.001%. So slightly higher, but still rare. The occurrence rate of myocarditis in children under 5 is 0 so far in Canada and in the US. In Canada, we have given more than 70,000 doses to this age group. And in the US, they have given over 1.5 million doses, and there is still no myocarditis seen. Next slide, please. A lot of children and adults have had COVID-19 by now. And you may wonder if you or they still need to be vaccinated. And the answer is yes. It is still recommended that anyone that has had COVID-19 be fully vaccinated and stay up to date with their boosters. For children that may not have completed their primary series, the recommendation is to wait 8 weeks from infection to start or complete that series with their next dose. For a booster dose, for those that are 5 years and up, it is recommended to wait 3 months from infection, which means either the day your symptoms started or the day you had a positive RAT or PCR if you were asymptomatic. There is a lot about reinfection that we just don't know at this time with COVID-19, so anything we can do to decrease the incidence of reinfection is best. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Moving along to COVID infections in pregnancy. Pregnant individuals are at higher risk of severe illness and hospitalization due to COVID-19, especially in their third trimester. Getting a COVID infection during pregnancy increases the risk of stillbirth, low birth weight, C-section, premature birth, preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure in pregnancy. Next slide, please. Pregnancy outcomes with COVID-19 vaccines. I know some pregnant individuals are very concerned that the COVID vaccine could be unsafe for their unborn baby. However, there is no difference seen in COVID-19 vaccinated pregnant people versus unvaccinated pregnant people with respect to spontaneous abortion, stillbirth, preterm birth, and other pregnancy-related complications. The rates are actually slightly less for complications in the vaccinated group, leading to the conclusion that the COVID-19 vaccines are safe in pregnancy, as they do not affect pregnancy outcomes. And the safety monitoring continues for this. Next slide, please. COVID-19 vaccines in pregnancy. The Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists of Canada recommend all individuals who are pregnant or trying to become pregnant be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and stay up to date with boosters. Vaccination is safe and effective in any trimester of pregnancy. Side effects seen in pregnant individuals are the same as in non-pregnant individuals. Pregnant individuals show similar immune responses as non-pregnant individuals. Next slide, please. What we know for certain. So hundreds of thousands of pregnant individuals have safely received the COVID vaccine, and there is no evidence to indicate that it is unsafe for the pregnant person or for the baby. A COVID-19 infection, however, can be very dangerous, putting mother and baby in jeopardy. Vaccinating in pregnancy can also help the baby receive antibodies through the placenta, and those antibodies have been shown to last for up to 6 months in the baby. This reduces newborn rates of ICU admissions or NICU admissions following birth due to COVID-19. Next slide, please. Moving on to breastfeeding and the COVID vaccine. We know that it is safe to breastfeed following the COVID vaccine. The baby will receive the antibodies from the breastfeeding parent. There is no evidence of milk supply disruption, and there are no adverse effects seen in the baby as they only get the antibodies. Side effects in breastfeeding people are the same as those that are not breastfeeding. Next slide, please. Two other things to add about breastfeeding. If the breastfeeding parent receives a COVID vaccine, it is fine for the baby, if 6 months or older, to then right after get their COVID vaccine. There is no need to leave a gap. It is safe to move forward and advised to move forward as soon as possible. And if breastfeeding, there is no need to pump and dump after a COVID vaccine. Next slide, please. If you would like to have your child vaccinated at SickKids, if you live nearby, we do run age-specific COVID vaccine clinics on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. If you would like more information about this, you can always call us at 437-881-3505 or toll free at 1-888-304-6558. You can also email us the name of your child and their birthday and ask about which day they can be vaccinated. And our email address for that is mobile, M-O-B-I-L-E, vaccination, VACCINATION, at SickKids.ca. But you can also have them vaccinated anywhere in the community. This concludes my portion of the presentation, and I would love to answer any questions you have about COVID-19 vaccines. So I will pass it over to Jonathan, I believe.
Hi, Allison, it's Minette. So thank you very much for that excellent, informative presentation. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to this vaccine webinar on the importance of vaccinating kids 6 months to 17 years old. My name is Minette Samaroo, and I'm the president of the Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians, Toronto chapter. My pronouns are she and her, and I am of East Indian descent. We'll now go into our Q&A session with my colleague, Jonathan. So Jonathan, if you'd like to give a brief introduction and description of yourself, and we can get into the Q&A.
Hello, my name is Jonathan. I am 23 years old, a student. I am Filipino and Iranian. I'm currently wearing a gray hoodie because it's quite cold outside. And I have no accessories and I have shortish black hair. Now for the Q&A questions, you could either, if you would like to, you could raise your hand in the chat and we will call upon you, or you could type it in chat and I will read it out loud for our lovely speaker to give you an answer. So if anyone has any questions, please type it in the chat or raise their hand.
Also, did we have any questions submitted when registration was done?
I did not see any questions.
Hi, everyone. This is Kim from the Accessibility Collaborative. And I'm here today just only to support the Minette and AEBC. So I'm going to stay off camera, but in terms of some questions, just to get some of the discussion going, we had a previously submitted question from a similar webinar that I think is quite a concern sort of shared by many folks. So I'll just share it just to start, get the conversation going here. And it's talking about, what some of the common reasons are why parents are are hesitant. And, you know, I think one, you know, one point of discussion is that they just don't have, like a lot of folks still don't have this kind of information that Allison was so generously provided to our community, has been generously providing to our communities. So that's a really keen thing, because, you know, parents and carers are still scared. So I don't know if we can touch on what some of those fears are, or Allison, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure.
What's
So,
been your experience over there?
yeah, so we hear, especially in the under 5 age group, a lot of people are just concerned about the safety. And when you combine that with other factors that produce hesitancy, feeling that the vaccine is safe or knowing that the vaccine is safe is key. And, you know, we at SickKids, we do recommend vaccination. We stand behind, you know, kids getting vaccinated 6 months, as early as 6 months, because these kids all need the protection. And especially right now in pediatrics, there's a lot of illness going around, and we are definitely seeing all of that at SickKids and are feeling that the pressures of that. And so I think that the safety, establishing the safety is such a key component, but there are other reasons why people are hesitant to even entertain the idea of vaccination. There is a lot of misinformation out there about the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, a lot. And it's very hard to combat all of that misinformation. It's so accessible to anybody and everybody. And those seeds of doubt get planted through conspiracy theories, like, for example, the fertility piece. You know, you want your child to be able to have the option to have children when they grow up. And so when that seed is planted, it's very, very challenging to move beyond that. Even if you have the correct information, it's still a seed that is there. A lot of people feel like nobody else is vaccinating their children under 5, so don't have kind of the confidence to go out and do it. I promise you there are parents vaccinating their children that are under 5. Definitely. We vaccinate them all the time. And this age group has been slower to initiate vaccination, but it is happening, definitely. And so those are kind of the two things. Something I hear often as well is that there's no talk of vaccination in the media now, whereas at one point we were bombarded with encouraging vaccination and that kind of thing. And so people, parents see that as, what's the word, a evidence that the vaccine is unsafe, whereas it's really just to do with the media moving on and covering other topics. So those are kind of the key things that we hear from parents.
That's great, Allison. Thank you very much. I'm sure folks on the call today in the session can relate to some of those
For sure, for
those
sure.
fears. So I just wanted to open up to say you're not alone.
No,
in
not
feeling
alone at all.
that. Yeah.
Not alone at all. And I think especially infants, parents are having a little bit more trouble coming to terms with vaccinating the 6-month-olds and the 11-month-olds. They feel that they're so young, but being young is the greatest thing, because that's generally when we give most of our vaccines, is when kids are young, and their bodies are kind of primed for vaccination. So, if you have an infant, either you can book an appointment with us to talk to us some more, like personally, individually, or, talk to your family doctor about vaccination. It's really, really important, especially right now.
Another question. So Paxlovid, has that, and that's kind of, not a preferred approach where you're, working in a reactive way. Can you talk a little bit about Paxlovid, just so folks know? And I'm not sure if the little ones can receive it, but also very good news that now pharmacies can prescribe. So there's a lot of changes happening even now, weekly. So
yes,
can you
definitely
chat about that a little bit, Allison?
Yeah, for sure. So Paxlovid is an antiviral that is available for 18 and up. Children are not eligible for Paxlovid. It is for people that are at high risk for severe disease, and it's an oral pill that you take. And there are a lot of medication interactions. So your pharmacist is actually the best person to be prescribing it, because they should have on record your medication. But it is a good drug at preventing, if you do get COVID, preventing severe disease and hospitalization if you are at high risk.
Okay, so that's good to know that kids under 18 are unable to receive Paxlovid, even if high risk. So
yes,
if your child is not vaccinated and contracts COVID-19, then there are no antivirals that they can take within the first 5 days.
Yeah, no, there are.
At this
exactly.
point. Okay.
Exactly.
To reduce severe illness or hospitalization. So that is really key to know.
Yes. We can't work backwards with kids. Yeah, we can't work backwards with kids. And it's very, kids are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think we're definitely seeing that right now, that kids are vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, especially with the three main respiratory.
The respiratory viruses that are infecting kids. Yeah. I mean, if your child is sick at home, hydration is really important. Drinking whatever they'll drink, it really doesn't matter if it's popsicles or water or juice. Anything is good for hydration purposes. You can, open your windows, freshen the air, give them Tylenol or Advil as directed for fevers if they do have them, and just monitoring your child. Most children don't become severely ill, but there is a risk, and I think we've minimized that risk for a long time, and we can't anymore. Touch base with your family doctor, of course, if your child is ill as well, and emergency rooms are for emergencies. If your child is having difficulty breathing, that is an emergency. If your child is not as alert as they normally are, that is an emergency. Things like that.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Now, this could just be my shoddy memory, so so apologies. But
no worries.
Did we touch on how, if there is any like recommended wait period between a COVID vaccine and a flu vaccine? Because I know flu vaccines are now eligible, really, really young kids, I think 6 months plus now, right?
Yeah, so there is no wait period between a flu shot or other vaccines and the COVID vaccine for any kids that are eligible. So they can get them on the same day in separate arms, or they can have them the day after. If your child has never ever had a flu shot, it is 2 doses, the flu shot, 4 weeks apart. If they have had the flu shot in a previous season, then it is 1 dose, or if they are 9 years old and up, they just get 1 dose only. But if it's that younger group, the 6 month to under 9, they do need their first time ever having a flu shot, they do need 2 doses. And flu shot, like definitely need to get your children and yourselves your flu shots as parents, protecting your kids in any way that you can.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard actually the flu shot this year is very successful. It's very
Mm-hmm. Yes.
effective this year. Some years not so much, but thankfully.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Thankfully.
The flu shot mixture is
Yes.
quite effective this year. Thankfully for that.
One thing I remember that we had a question in the last session I did with you, Kim, was about long-term effects of the COVID vaccine and the parental concern around that. So I think I'll just speak to that briefly, if that's okay. So long-term effects can seem very daunting to parents, of course, and thinking if something has long-term effects that you wouldn't want to go ahead with that thing. For vaccinations, long-term effects are kind of a bit of a misnomer, I guess. Anything that is going to come about from vaccination happens in the first few weeks following vaccination. The actual vaccine, so for the COVID vaccine, the mRNA is degraded so rapidly, it doesn't stick around to cause trouble. And all that your body is left with are the antibodies, which are natural within your body. Antibodies are. So your body knows what to do with those. So if you don't see it in the first few weeks following vaccination, we're not going to see it, say, 10 years down the road, or 5 years down the road, or anything like that. So we give vaccines a little bit more power than they actually deserve. They don't have superpowers to hide or anything like that to then later cause issues in the long term.
Unlike COVID.
Unlike COVID, we sure know that COVID can cause long-term issues, especially cognitively, things like that. COVID has some serious, can have some serious long-term impacts on kids and adults.
There's actually now an institute or a center that's been set up specifically to study effects of long-term COVID, right? Which is really key for folks to be able to get that support. So that's going on, but that's another reason why we need to do all that we can
for sure,
to protect ourselves
absolutely.
and loved ones and larger community.
Yes, for sure,
Thinking about more vulnerable folks.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any thoughts they would like to contribute in the chat, or raise your hand and we can?
So I have a question, Allison. So you mentioned about the mRNA and how it's been around for a long time. Is that a concern that parents come with, that it's something new and that's why they don't kind of trust it?
Yes, they feel like mRNA technology is very new, and the truth is it's probably new to the public, but it isn't new to science and immunology. It's been used in studies, mRNA vaccines, for different purposes, for different illnesses, for about 12 years. And it's actually been used in studies in children with different diseases for about 3 years now. So it's definitely not new to the science and immunology and things like that world, but it's new for vaccines for kids that is, so people feel like it's scary. And I can understand that fear. I can understand it, but there's lots and lots of research that has gone into this for decades.
Great.
Well, I wish the media would help us with that messaging anymore.
Yeah.
Like that would be something like we need them when like we
Yeah.
do need that,
Mhm.
broader reach to
Yeah,
help
for sure.
educate people.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and another thing you mentioned in your presentation that when a pregnant mother is being vaccinated, that passes
Mhm.
on to the child as well. You receive
Mhm.
that antibody. Can you
Mhm.
explain that a bit more? Expand on it?
Yeah, so the mom would get the vaccine, and she would have that production of the antibodies, and the antibodies travel through the placenta and to the baby. And so when your baby is born, your baby will have antibodies against COVID-19 if the vaccine was during pregnancy. Which really helps babies when they're born and in their first few months of life. If they are exposed to COVID-19, it helps protect them against actually developing the infection and against hospitalization, NICU admissions, ICU admissions, things like that. And they've seen in babies those antibodies lasting as long as 6 months, which is then when your child can get vaccinated, which is great timing around that. So it's definitely encouraged to vaccinate during pregnancy. It's a really great time to give your baby some protection at birth.
No, this is amazing information because as this is not something that's readily known, and it's not like always out there. So this
Mhm.
is very, very informative.
Good.
And Allison's pretty easy to approach.
Yeah.
That's always
I
very helpful.
live for these conversations. I live and sleep and breathe COVID vaccines.
Just quickly, now you may or may not like be privy to what some of the behind the scenes research, but I know that there has been a little bit of information around like oral vaccines. I know that there's an oral test that's now available, which I think is a lot easier for kids and
Mhm.
for me for sure. Although nasal swabbing. But
Yes.
do you have any sort of preliminary or kind of just in your opinion, like in terms of those oral vaccine, the availability and when those might
Mhm.
be? Because I
I
think that'll
haven't,
be
yeah,
a
I
lot
haven't,
easier for so many kids, right?
yes, kids, yes,
And
for sure.
needle phobic folks for sure.
Mhm. Yes, actually, we run a specialty clinic at SickKids with our COVID vaccine kits for kids with needle phobia because it became such a prevalent thing that we experienced, and most are successfully vaccinated, thankfully. There's a very, 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 very small portion that haven't been able to, but new technology would be wonderful. There's nothing on the pipelines yet for the COVID vaccine, unfortunately. I know the flu shot is available, not in Canada, but intranasally. But it has some limitations as to the population just because of the type of vaccine it is. So pregnant women can't get it, things like that. So there are some limitations with them, but nothing coming down the pipes yet, sadly.
Okay, well, maybe in the beginnings of that might be happening in a lab somewhere, but we just
Hopefully.
don't know. So let's not
Exactly.
officially say the word that it's coming because we'll
Yeah.
get in trouble. Yeah, no, for sure. 'Cause I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if something is released, something is sort of, publicized or we're made aware, and because I
You
think
never
that
know.
that's a really good, development and evolution in vaccines right across the board for sure.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
That's really good to know that your clinic actually supports kids who are, that you have a specialized unit for kids who are needle
Yes.
phobic. So that's
Yeah.
really good info to have.
Yeah, it's it's unfortunate that kids do experience that, but it's very, very real, and kids do have a hard time. We do have a resource on our website on our SickKids website about kids' health, and it's the website, or the acronym is CARD, C-A-R-D, and it gives you some strategies for helping children with vaccinations and other procedures that they might have to have done. But this is specifically for children with needle phobia or with needle anxiety, things like that, strategies to help them through the experience and be successful.
Okay, that's great.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or questions? Sorry, I'm just kind of like jumping in here.
That's
I'm
okay.
like on a roll now. Other questions from folks?
I guess
Anyone want to type?
Allison, go ahead, John.
I was just saying, like, if anyone has any questions, don't be afraid to type in the chat. It's okay.
Mhm.
I was just going to say, Allison's presentation seemed to be like really, really clear and concise, so like everybody seemed to understand.
Excellent.
Oh, Minette, do you want to do the final wrap up then, or?
Yes, if there are no more questions, you know, final call. Any final questions? You can either raise your hand or type in the chat. Not hearing none. So I guess we should wrap up. So thank you everyone for attending today's session on the collaborative effort between SickKids and the Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians, and also Center for Independent Living in Toronto. This has been a really amazing, informative session, and it's being recorded, so we'll be sharing this with our community afterwards. A special thanks to Rihan for doing the tech check, Kim for stepping in, Allison, we have Jonathan. Did I miss anyone? And thank you to each of our participants.
And to
We hope,
Sarah, your
Yeah,
amazing
Sarah.
yeah, she
student
left.
placement.
Yeah, she left. But still, Sarah also. And yeah, and also our ESL interpreters, Francine and Anna, and also our captioner, Kim. Thank you everyone for your contributions to making this session accessible. Any final comments, Kim?